first workshop of the year, and would extend a Happy New Year to everybody, and hope you had some time off over the last few weeks. I know everybody's back to work and doing their thing, so anyway, appreciate that and look forward to a workshop. And today, our Chair Scott is traveling on behalf of the TDC, I believe, or something, I'm not sure, but he's traveling. Commissioner Peters is here. She wants to participate perhaps during the workshop, so I'll just need a motion and a second to allow her to do that.
Second.
You got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Commissioner Peters, you are welcome to join us when you have something you want to add. And with that, Barry, we'll go ahead and get started with 49th Street Safety Study.
Good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, we have two items for you today that we're going to discuss, and obviously any other items that you want to discuss at the workshop. But we'll start with the 49th Street Safety Study. Valerie with Ford Pinellas is going to open this up and really talk about the project that they're getting ready to begin. So with that, I'll turn it over to Valerie.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Valerie Brookins. I'm with Ford Pinellas, and we're going to share a little bit today about the safety study for 49th Street. There's two sections, and this is a result of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that we received in partnership with Pinellas County. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam to go into the details of what we found and some of the recommendations. But I just want to introduce the project team also. So from the county, Joan Rice and John Riemann were part of this team. And then the team from AECOM that actually helped with the study. We have Adam Purcell and then Domingo Noriega. So I will turn over to Adam to give the presentation.
Thank you. Welcome, Adam.
All right, Commissioners, good morning. How I advance the slides. Oh, sorry. Grab the right remote control. All right, good morning. My name's Adam Purcell. I'm a city planner with AECOM. I focus on transportation planning. I've been working in the Tampa Bay area for the past 18 years, supporting Ford Pinellas and some of the other regional MPOs and some of the DOT activities here as well in Central Florida. The project on 49th Street is the continuation of a larger effort. So in 2021, Pinellas County and Ford Pinellas undertook the Safe Streets Pinellas Action Plan effort. That effort, kind of based on that Vision Zero goal of no serious injuries or fatalities resulting from crashes on our transportation network, took a macro level assessment of crashes in Pinellas County. The map on the right of the screen here shows a map from that plan where it identifies the crashes, the serious injury or fatal crashes that occurred over a 5-year period in Pinellas County. And that plan then identifies the most hazardous corridors in the county and coins those as the high injury network. 49th Street is one facility that was defined as part of that high injury network. This phase of study is to move from that macro level to focus on the corridor itself. So we're looking at 49th Street to identify the conditions along that road that make it hazardous, and then identify proven safety countermeasures that we can implement to address the safety issues that exist along that corridor. We're doing this in hopes of setting ourselves up for additional federal funding. Right now, the federal transportation bill includes the Safe Streets and Roads for All program that has significant federal funding for safety across the country. It's a competitive grant program, so we want to make sure we put our best foot forward for that. But this report is hopefully to support the development of one of those grant applications where we can obtain additional funding to improve safety along 49th Street. When I say 49th Street, that's about a 12 or 13 mile corridor from Gulfport all the way up to the Bayside Bridge. Our focus areas include two areas. We're talking about 2.5 miles of the larger corridor. We looked at municipal boundary, we looked at crash densities, and identified these as our focus areas or the areas that we want to identify our effort. The southern focus areas within the community of Lealman, from 40th Avenue North to 62nd Avenue North, and then just west of the airport on 49th Street between Ulmerton and Roosevelt Boulevard. One of the things that we really tried to do as part of this study is set the project recommendations in the context of the community. A lot of times, safety projects can be implemented based on crash data alone, but we really wanted to bring in the factors of the people and the places that are going to be affected by these improvements to make sure that they have an impact and that they work within the locations that they're designed to address. To familiarize you with the corridor, I'm sure many of you are familiar with these activity centers, and these are some of the activity centers that are located within our study areas. Pinellas Safe Harbor, so that's the homeless shelter operated by the county. That is within the bounds of the North Study Area. The Pinellas County Justice Center and Jail are located there as well, and then Bayside High School. As I noted previously, Leoman makes up the area that encompasses the southern focus area. And one of the major activity centers there on 49th Street in Leoman is the HCA Florida Northside Hospital. So that's got about 1,000 employees a day, a really major activity center bringing people in to and along the 49th Street corridor. Additionally, to further help us develop that context for where these crashes are occurring, we engaged with the community. We talked with local leadership. We met with the Leoman CRA Advisory Committee in May, introduced the project, introduced kind of our goals and what we were trying to accomplish, and really asked them to provide input on hazards. Where do they see the dangerous areas exist along the corridor? And then what do they feel might be appropriate action to address those safety issues? We conducted a community survey. So this was an online survey that was advertised through social media, through the county website. And then for people less inclined to visit the county website or follow the county on social media, we advertised that survey through placards at the transit stops along the corridor, so that through the use of a QR code and a smartphone, you could complete the survey. We got, in the limited duration of the survey, we got almost 100 responses, which I thought was a good response from the community, and really informed the process of developing those safety countermeasures. And then finally, after we had done some of our crash analysis and developed some preliminary countermeasures, we took our ideas back to the community. So in July, we held a workshop at the Leoman Exchange, invited the community to come in and take a look at our recommendations and provide feedback. We got a lot of great feedback from the public on this project so far. The results from our survey, some of the keynotes taken from that is we asked the public what hazards they thought were most present along the corridor, what safety concerns they had along the corridor. Aggressive driving, distracted driving were the top two. And then kind of interestingly, the third one was pedestrians and bicyclists crossing the corridor at unprotected locations. So it seems as though the dart and dash of pedestrians and bicyclists across the corridor was of concern to the public that responded to the survey. We also asked them a little bit about near misses. So we have the crash data. I'll talk about that in a minute in the slides. But we have the crash data. We know where the crashes are occurring, but where are the near misses occurring? Where are the things that might not be captured in our data? Where are they showing up? So we asked them to identify where they observed those near misses. And those generally correspond with our crash hotspots, with our signalized intersections. But there are a couple locations. 58th Avenue North, right by the hospital, is a turn that's protected by a flashing red beacon. That turn accesses the emergency department of the hospital. So there are some safety concerns there, and even in our limited time in the field, we saw some issues of cars nearly striking emergency vehicles accessing the hospital. So that's kind of a hot spot that we identified in our survey results. And then you can see we presented the community with a plot at our workshop where we walked them through all the proposed improvements and got their feedback on those. What did they think was appropriate, not appropriate? And what ideas do they have outside of what we recommended? So we got feedback and summarized that in a series of memorandum, and then kind of put that in our file as we move along with the project. We also did an extensive roadway analysis. So as any engineering firm would do, we went out and we took a look at the existing lane geometry. We took a look at traffic speed and volumes. We took a look at intersection operations. We loaded this into software that let us simulate the operations of our intersections, and let us tweak the lane configurations, the signal timing to see if we could improve safety at those intersections. And one of the things we noted in our speed study is that traffic along this corridor is moving in excess of the posted speed. So the 85th percentile speed is more than 5 miles above the posted speed. So about 15% of the cars moving along the corridor are traveling in excess of 5 miles above the speed limit. We didn't just focus on the roadway features, so not just the cars, but we looked at the multimodal aspects of the corridor. We looked at the bicycles, pedestrians, and transit. The northern segment of the corridor, it has a really active transit activity. We looked at 600 riders a day boarding or alighting a bus within the 1 mile project study area. So that's putting 600 people a day, turning them into pedestrians or bicyclists along the corridor, with those buses stopping in traffic to board and alight. So we've identified, through some of this data analysis that we've got fast cars and we've got lots of bicyclists and pedestrians, and that's kind of a prelude into what we'll see in our crash analysis. We collected crash data over a 5-year period. So from 2019 to 2023, we collected all of the crashes that occurred along the corridor. Within about the 2.5 miles of study, we identified 858 crashes. The predominant crash type in the area was a rear end crash, which accounted for about 50% of those crashes. And then we really spent quite a bit of effort focusing in on our crashes resulting in fatal or serious injuries. We had about 47 of those types of crashes, and then 49 crashes involved bicyclists or pedestrians. Once we had mapped and looked at the distribution of the crashes along the corridor, we really started to do a detailed analysis of the crashes to identify the contributing factors or root causes. We have a series of tables like this in our report that identify contributing causes, crash types, that allow us to start to look at why we think these crashes may be occurring. Aggressive or distracted driving are among the highest that we saw as far as contributing causes. In crash types, one of the things we saw was, as I noted, the rear-end crashes were the predominant crash type along the corridor. But as we got into the crash reports, and what we did is we reviewed every police report for every serious injury or fatal crash along the corridor and looked at its contributing factors. So we looked at existing roadway conditions, we looked at lighting conditions, weather conditions, and driver actions to see if we could figure out what was going on. We separated out the severe injury and fatal crashes and did an analysis of those. And what we saw was certain crash types occurred with more frequency along the north and south areas of the corridor. In the south area, we saw that left turn or angle crashes were the predominant crash type there for the serious and fatal injuries, which isn't consistent with the rear end crashes. Those aren't resulting in the injuries. What we saw was that about 25% of the crashes overall were angle or left turn, but more than 50% of the fatal or serious injury crashes were related to those two types of crashes. And then in the northern study area, we looked at pedestrians and bicyclists. They accounted for about 7% of the crashes that occurred along the northern segment of the corridor, but they accounted for 52% of the fatal or serious injury crashes. So that starts to let us focus effort as we start to look at the issues that are contributing to our fatal or serious injury crashes along the corridor and focus where we may want to make countermeasure recommendations to address those serious injuries.
So 1 second, I just want to see
Yes.
if there's any questions to this point, because I think it's a good place to ask any questions. No. I just had a couple. On the north, when you did the survey and all of that, on the north side, there's a huge business community as well. Were you able to get any information that they participated in the survey?
So what we asked was whether the participants worked along the corridor or lived along the corridor, and we asked what zip code they were located in. We didn't ask if they were a business owner, so I can't link it directly back to a business owner, but I could link it back to, I want to say 85% of the respondents, or a high number like that, either worked or lived along the corridor. So I don't have specific.
Yeah, that business section is pretty active, pretty busy. Maybe not as active as the courthouse on the other side of the road, but again, just want to make sure that we're getting everybody included. The speed limits along that area, I saw a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. Is that the speed limit throughout that?
So it varies. I think that at its lowest, it's 40. At its highest, it's 45. I don't recall. Domingo, do you recall? Okay. Yeah, and when we did our speed study, so we put traffic cameras and counters out, and we're able to identify that the 85th percentile speed is 5 miles above the posted. So we can see the vehicles.
And from all of the speeding that I see around that doesn't sound so bad, but tell me how that stacks up in other analysis.
Right, so one thing we did do with some of our crash data is we were able to identify safety ratio or a crash ratio, and we were able to compare that crash ratio to this corridor, and we noted that when compared to other similar facilities around the state, 49th Street does exhibit a higher crash rate. I think when we look at the speed specifically, DOT has some guidance in the Highway Capacity Manual that says that the 85th percentile is more than 5 miles an hour over the posted speed, then you should raise the speed limit. So that is context-driven, of course, and we think that because of the pedestrian and bicyclist activity here, that wouldn't be appropriate. But that is one of the things with the 85th percentile speed is it is high. That typically in the southern segment of the corridor, we saw the 85th percentile more closely related to the posted speed, about 3 miles an hour. So I would say that, yes, traffic is moving more quickly along 49th Street. Is it the fastest in the region? By no means. But is it a point of consideration and a safety improvement? It is.
So, and you also made a comment about how it compares to state numbers as far as crashes and serious injuries. How is it compared to, what other roads within Pinellas County are similar? Do we have a sense of that? Did you find any, like, is this road particularly bad for Pinellas County? Is it in the norm? Is it a little bit less than?
So it is. So it is for Pinellas County. It is part of the high crash network. So that was what that 2021 study, so the Safe Streets Action Plan, did that county-wide assessment. So they looked at all the roads in Pinellas County and narrowed down the list of roads. So they identified the high injury network. So that's where the majority of crashes. And I'm not sure. I know in other places we see something like 5% of the roads support 40% of the crashes. I'm not sure of the specific number here in Pinellas County, but that high injury network was defined as part of that study, and 49th Street is part of that high injury network. So by its listing in that plan, and that's why it's the focus of this, is because it's already been established that, yes, 49th Street is a
Thank you.
is a hazardous road.
Comments? Oh, Commissioner, go ahead. Did you have one?
Just out of curiosity, for my constituents' sake, not my own, what is the speed limit on the Bayside Bridge? That's not 40
I think
miles.
it's 50 or 55. I'm
Oh, okay,
I
and then
know
it
there's
dips
always a
down.
police officer sitting on the,
40. Yeah, well, I
side of
know,
the
not for my own
55.
sake, but for my
it's
constituents,
55.
that there's usually a police officer sitting there. So it's 55 and then it dips down to 40?
So in the study, in the Northern Study area, it's 45.
45?
Oh, okay, all righty, thank you.
In the north section, 45? Okay. Commissioner Nowicki?
Thank you, Chair, I guess. So I saw on one of the slides, it says road diet, lane reduction, and bat lanes. Is that anywhere in this study or project?
So we did, so that was one of the things that we received in our workshop, was we had a group of people from the public come in and immediately provide a comment that they would like to see a road diet along the road. And a road diet is where we remove a lane of travel and dedicate it to another mode. So we would take a lane out and dedicate it to either some sort of buffering for the pedestrian and bicyclist, or rearrange the road so that it supports more users, or more modes of travel. We looked at that. So right now, the AEDT, so the volume of traffic along the corridor, is 29 to 30,000 vehicles a day. We've got a 6-lane road. It meets level of service standards today. Even as a 4-lane road with that volume of traffic, it may meet that level of service standard. What we looked at then was in the future, because we have the travel demand model, we took a look at that model and looked at 2045 volumes based on the travel demand model, and we're much closer to 45,000 vehicles a day. On a 6-lane road, 45,000 vehicles meets level of service standards. On a 4-lane road, it does not. That would introduce a congestion along the facility. So that was something that we looked at. And in addition, we looked at the purpose of the roadway. So it's a county-designated truck route. It's a locally and state-designated evacuation route. And it's a primary connector to the Bayside Bridge through a series of industrial or commercial areas. So we looked at introducing congestion to that roadway and thought that based on its other purposes, that may not be something that we would recommend as part of this study.
Okay, so that's no recommendation for a road diet or lane reduction for this corridor at this time.
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner, you can relax.
Yeah.
And it was
I feel
interesting to
you're
see.
paid, though, I understand.
Thank you.
Members of the public at the workshop, some came out in support of the road diet, and others came out with that opinion of we do not want to see a road diet along our corridor. We have enough congestion. We do not want to see more congestion. So that was part of the public feedback that we received.
I think it was a great way to explain why not. Anybody else? Yes.
Yes,
Commissioner
Chair.
Scheer.
Thank
Go
you. I was on the crash data itself. Do we have any data on the number of crashes that occur just before bus stops for PSTA? Like, I've actually witnessed crashes where people are trying to get out from behind the buses and they whip out and then all wham. And how many accidents do we keep track of how close accidents occur to?
We could do an analysis of that. So what we did not as part of this study, how close they occurred to each transit stop, but we did look at the crash reports. So in the KSI crashes, so those that resulted in a killed or seriously injured person, we looked at those details, and there are several where the buses stop in the roadway and vehicles maneuver around that bus, resulting in a severe crash. I want to say 3 or 4 instances, 3 and 4 occurrences of that were noted along the corridor. So that is one of our recommendations, is to where there's an opportunity, and we think along the north side, we have a high transit ridership along the north side. B, there's a lot of publicly owned property up there. So we have Bayside High School on one side, we have the Justice Center on the other, we have very active transit stops. We introduced the idea as part of this study is providing that bus pull-out bay and that area of publicly owned land to move those buses out of the flow of traffic. Unfortunately, on the south side of the corridor is fronted by businesses. It's fronted by businesses with limited parking. So if we start to look at an expansion of the right-of-way there to support the movement of buses out of the corridor, it's not so feasible.
And when you say the south side, you mean the south-going traffic?
Well, the South Focus area, I'm sorry. So we think both directions on the North Focus area. So northbound, Bayside High School is on the east side of the road. Southbound, the Justice Center is on the west side of the road. Both of those are publicly owned parcels. It may take some maneuvering at the governmental level to work a relinquishment of the right-of-way to the county to develop that. But we think the opportunity exists for that. So we did look at the transit stops, and it is an issue along this corridor.
I think it is. I travel 49th Street quite a bit, and I see that quite a bit, where the buses are stopped, and it just really, it holds the traffic up, and it's dangerous, because people are just whipping out, and then they get hit on the driver's side, right next to the bus. So
Yeah. There were.
maybe we can put some kind of pull off for the buses to stop and not stop traffic, I think would be great in this corridor.
Yep, and we thought that with the ridership at the north end, that it again was another factor in justifying that type of improvement.
Yeah, that's always been one of my thoughts too, is to be able to have those pull-offs so that the lane's not impaired or cut off. And then you do have folks like me that try to look out ahead to see, oh, there's a bus up there.
There's a
I'm
bus
getting
going, I
over
gotta get
now,
over.
Because the last thing I want to do is get stuck behind a bus.
And then there's 3 or 4 people stuck,
Yeah,
and
and
everybody
then-
gets irritated.
Yeah, and then we're all swerving out to get around at the same time, and yeah, it's frustrating. And I do think, as you said, I think there are some opportunities up in that north focus area to do that. meander the sidewalk a little bit and get some areas to pull off.
Exactly, in the area where we see traffic moving fast as well.
We would have obviously no issue with that. I mean, that we've got land there. Just so you also know, for the new campus, we've already started that type of discussion into the design to where along Almerton, they can get off the roadway and actually, and have met with PSTA and are already working on things like that. So.
Yeah, it's, even up in, on 580 and Countryside Mall, it's a huge bus stop area. And we don't pull them, I mean, there's a bike lane that they try to pull off of, and it's just not quite wide enough for a car to stay in their lane and keep going. So those are opportunities that just, cry for some help. But anyway, appreciate your thoughts on that. Any other comments before we continue? Go ahead.
All right, so this wasn't just a desktop analysis. We didn't just sit and review crash data, but we put a team out in the field. We conducted roadway safety audits. I don't know if any of you have had an opportunity to participate in a RSA, but it's where we take a multidisciplinary team. We take local leaders. We take people from fire rescue and law enforcement. And the RSAs that were conducted along this corridor, FDOT participated, consultant and county engineering staff participated, local law enforcement, fire rescue participated, and then local leadership. Amy Davis was able to attend our RSA in Lealman. She works with the CRA quite a bit down there. So we were able to go out in the field, and that gives us an opportunity to talk with the people that work along those corridors. Fire rescue was invaluable along this, as was law enforcement, where they could tell us where the crashes were happening, the history of the site. The turn into the hospital I noted previously, fire rescue was like, gosh, this needs some attention. This is someplace that we have a lot of near misses. And then what we do along those RSAs is we go out with that team, we identify deficiencies, and then that RSA results in recommendations too. So as we wrap a report for that roadway safety audit, we identify countermeasures that can mitigate the deficiencies or issues we saw along the corridor. So 2 of those were conducted earlier in 2024, in February and April of 2024, and kind of gave us a basis for some of the existing conditions. So kind of to summarize, all of this analysis, we've done desktop analysis of crash data, we've gone out in the field, we've talked to the community. What did we really see? So in the South Focus area, the leading issue was access management. It's depicted in the crash data where we have the left turn or angle crashes. So that's cars turning into the path of other cars. And what we saw along that corridor where there are a lot of continuous left turn lanes, that there are a lot of opportunities for traffic to cross the roadway, to move from one side of a parking lot across the roadway and head in the other direction of traffic. And that number of potential conflict points is resulting in a high number of crashes. And those crash types that we saw are predominantly or disproportionately represented in those serious crashes. So we think access management along the South Focus area is a key point. We did present some access management modification to the public at our workshop, and it was well received. Sometimes access management, the taking or realigning of a median opening can cause a lot of contention in the public, but the group that was at the workshop seemed to agree that something needs to be done. And access management was a good idea on how to address some of the conflicts they saw. Bike ped accommodation in the South Focus area as well. We're looking at a half a mile between signalized crossings. So if you're walking through the Lealman community and reach 49th Street, you may need to extend your walk by a half a mile to cross the road. So we looked at opportunities for additional pedestrian crossings. The Greenway on the south end, the St. Joe's Greenway, is about to be extended. We included a pedestrian crossing at that. And then again, in an area where we're at a half a mile of a continuous road without a signalized crossing, we made a recommendation to improve it there, which is just south of the cemetery. There's a 50th Avenue North is kind of a connector that connects back to the neighborhoods. We thought that would be a potentially appropriate location for a pedestrian crossing. And then 58th Avenue North, I've noted this a couple times as well. This is the flashing red signal that provides access to the hospital. This is something that is highlighted in the crash data and highlighted in the community response of there's something going on at this intersection and we need to address it. We did recommend, Domingo reviewed the signal warrants, and we did recommend full signal at that location. I'll touch on that in a minute. The North Focus area, go ahead.
Are those crossings that you're talking about, are they considered mid-block crossings with flashing lights, or is it, how are you?
So based on the speed of the roadway, so at 40 or 45 miles an hour, we recommended like the Hawk, where it's a red, so it stops traffic. It would be pedestrian actuated, but it would require a full stop of traffic. It's not an RRFB. It would be a full stop condition at those locations.
Okay, thanks.
The North Focus area, as I noted before, we noticed that traffic is moving very quickly in this area, well above posted speed limits, and that we have a large number of bicyclists and pedestrians. This was borne out in the crash data. Like I noted before, the pedestrian and bicyclist crashes along the north segment represent 7% of the overall crashes, but 52% of the fatal and serious injury crashes. We noted that there's a hot spot of that type of crash activity, the bicycle pedestrian activity at Ulmerton Road. That is a very busy intersection. Ulmerton Road has a very high volume of traffic, but we've noted a high conflict between bicyclists and pedestrians. We did note some opportunity to increase the visibility of the bike lanes. There are some points where MUTCD shows that the bike lane could be painted with green paint to increase its visibility. And then there's a continuous right turn lane that might need to be reevaluated if pedestrians were to be prioritized versus movement of cars. So the key safety findings are laid out here. You know, a year's effort of looking at safety conditions and reviewing crash reports and talking to the public. This is kind of the so what of the study. And then what we wanted to do to start to address this was identify countermeasures. So I talked through the first two bullets here. We've gone out and we've looked at the crash data. We've looked at the existing conditions. And then what we've done is we've gone to existing engineering practice. So Federal Highway has identified a series of proven safety countermeasures. Those proven safety countermeasures have been peer-reviewed by engineers, and they've been assessed for their effectiveness. And that's why we refer to them as proven safety countermeasures. Those proven safety countermeasures are all collected in a clearinghouse. We call that the Crash Modification Factor Clearinghouse, which then assesses the effectiveness of those modifications. We were able to go in and look at those that engineers were highly confident that they would be highly effective in addressing specific crash types and specific conditions. And we went through and looked at the conditions along 49th Street and married it up to those proven safety countermeasures that fit. And we also, as I noted a little bit before, we worked within the idea of a constrained system. So we know along the southern part of the corridor, right-of-way is a constraint. That going in and widening sidewalks to the outside isn't something that's going to be able to be accommodated within the existing right-of-way, which limits some of our choices. So we looked at the safety countermeasures and then also considered the constraints because we want to develop a plan that is implementable. We don't want something that requires more study. We want something that can be designed and built, which is hopefully what we get the funding for the next phase. In summary, our report identified 80 safety countermeasures along the corridor. Some of those are corridor-wide, some of those are site improvements or spot improvements. They range from a series of different topics. We noted that lighting along the corridor was an issue for roadway and pedestrians. I noted access management, the turn lanes or the continuous turn lane along the median is an issue. We looked a lot at traffic control. So a lot of the crash types, people were missing the signals. So they're running red lights. They're not adhering to the posted pavement markings or posted traffic signals, and those are resulting in crashes. So we identified several countermeasures to address the improvement of those signals or the improvement of those pavement markings. We looked at extending turn lanes. So there are places where there's a little bit of congestion at 54th Avenue North. It's a major thoroughfare. The left turn onto that corridor could use some additional storage capacity. There was the opportunity for that, so we made that recommendation. We looked at drainage. There's some places along the pedestrian pathway that are pooling. So when you come up to an intersection, you're met with a 6-inch puddle. We've identified places where drainage can be addressed. Those are site improvements generally. We looked at bicycle and pedestrian improvements. I noted the pavement markings at Ulmerton. And one of the things we noted was because of the constrained nature of the corridor, the inclusion of bicycle and pedestrian improvements, one of the things that came from the community input was protected bike lanes. On the south side on the south focus area, those just aren't going to be feasible within the existing right-of-way. So we looked at other places where we think we might be able to direct bike ped traffic. Within Leelman, there's another corridor, one street to the west that might be more appropriate for bicycle pedestrian travel through the neighborhood. So we recommended the evaluation of improvement of that corridor and connection of it back to 49th Street. And then sometimes it's just as simple as maintenance. We noted that there's a lot of places where trees or bushes have encroached upon the sidewalk, so we have a 5-foot sidewalk that's now a 3-foot sidewalk of usable space. So some focus on maintenance along the corridor will address some of the safety issues. And then what we've done, and this is just a sampling of the 80 project recommendations. I didn't want to present those here. Our final report's forthcoming this month. I'm happy to provide it to the commission so you can review those in detail. But what we've done is really tried to set up the next phase. So we wanted to identify timelines associated with some of the recommended improvements. So we're looking at short term, so that's less than 12 months. Midterm is 1 to 5 years, and then that long term is something that we expect would take more than 5 years. Some of these short-term improvements are already being addressed. Joan and I, based on some of the issues we identified back in July for the workshop, the street lighting issue is already being addressed. There's already been a contract signed with Duke Energy to convert the street lights from the old halogen format to a LED format. So we're starting to look at that. The lead pedestrian interval at the intersections along the corridor has already been modified. That's something we can do through the controller box. So to prioritize those pedestrians at the intersections and give them more visibility to the traffic moving along the corridor, some of those near-term things have already been implemented by staff, but the report will bear those out as kind of a near-term thing that we think we can make happen very quickly. With that, I'll open it up for additional questions, but that's all I have this morning.
Thank you. Questions from the commission?
Yes, I have a question on.
Commissioner Scheer, go ahead.
One of your, thank you, Chair. One of your recommendations would be driveway spacing for practical, it's in the middle. How would you accomplish that?
So
You're not going to take people's driveways away or condemn them or?
So what we see along 49th Street is a lot of these parcels have been there for a very long time, and 49th Street has widened, and we see smaller parcels with multiple access points to 49th Street. So there'll be a business on the north side and south side of their parking lot, they've got 2 access points. Or we'll see that the entire length of the frontage of that parcel along the roadway has access. So that's where it introduces additional potential for conflict points. So as the traffic moves in and out of these, they're stopping, they're pulling out, it creates conflict on the roadway. So there's a study that we can go through, an access management process. And Domingo, I don't know if you're more familiar with that, the access management process. Domingo is our traffic engineer with AECom and could speak more directly
I was
to it.
more concerned with how you would implement making changes to the driveway cuts. Are you going to tell people they have to eliminate their driveway cuts? And
Correct. Well, some of it. I don't know that there would be any instance where we would eliminate access of a parcel to the roadway. I think it would be where we might limit access of a parcel to a roadway. And there's a whole process for that. So that's a recommendation where that's additional study, and there's policies and standards here in Pinellas County that direct that process. So that's a hey, we think this is contributing to the crashes along the corridor. This is something that should be evaluated as a means of addressing it. So as far as actually removing those access points, that's a whole nother process that would need to be engaged in.
okay, thank you.
Anything else? Yeah, Commissioner Nowicki.
Thank you, Chair. So it said, just out of curiosity, that the main 3 problems were aggressive driving, distracted driving, and bicycle and pedestrians crossing the street in undesignated areas. how would these improvements address people driving aggressively? I mean, people are still going to drive aggressively. People are still going to drive distracted. And if you have a bike and cross the street illegally now or jaywalk now, I mean, how would these improvements affect aggressive, distracted, and people crossing the street illegally at the wrong spots?
Right, so aggressive often relates to speed. So we do have some improvements to give feedback, speed feedback signs. So coming down off of the overpass over Roosevelt onto 49th Street, cars have a clear sight distance, it's a straight road, they're moving quickly. We wanted to give those drivers an opportunity for feedback of, hey, you're going 55 miles an hour. So we have a recommendation to mitigate speed on that segment of the North Focus area. We also want to, through some of our signals, so distracted driving, as you're kind of paying attention, you're not, you miss a traffic signal. One of the things that we can do, it's really simple, is put a back plate on the traffic light to make it more visible to the driver. So maybe you would have missed it had that back plate not been there, but that back plate will make that signal more pronounced, and maybe you'll notice that. So that, again, based on the proven safety countermeasures, even that minor modification of the signal can have an impact to compliance.
And so are those in the proposed countermeasures?
Those are in the proposed countermeasures, and I'm sorry, we went through do we show all 80 and provide you the extensive list? And I'm happy, like I said, that the final report's forthcoming, and that's something we can get out to the commission to review and comment on. And then we did, as far as bicyclists, pedestrians crossing, we want to provide those additional crossing opportunities. On the south side, we recommend 2 additional crossing locations to cut that distance down. So some people want to cross at a signalized location, but they're not willing to sacrifice the half-mile walk to get to a signal. So on the south side, we identify those. On the north side, there are 2 bus routes serve the corridor. And near the Justice Center, there were 4 bus stops. So, and one was more distant from a signalized intersection. So we actually made the recommendation to remove that bus stop and consolidate those bus stops down to the one that was more proximate to the signalized intersection, because we don't want to give people a reason to cross mid-street without a protected signal. So those are some of the safety recommendations that we identified along the corridor to improve conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I just had a couple. The access management, I understand the concerns with it. It always concerns me, I think, to your point about the curb cuts and then the continuous turn lane in the middle, which businesses just absolutely love. I remember doing a study on 580, and we wanted to beautify the middle lane a little bit, but at the same time provide some turning and cut down on the number of, road crossings, if you will. And that was just not met with a lot of happiness, I'll just say that. And so that becomes a very practically, to your point, it's practical. How do we do it so that it works within? I do think when you get to the intersections and you're looking to extend the left turn lane a little bit and using some of that continuous makes some sense. But from a practical side, it becomes very problematic for some of the businesses, and I understand the issue, the conflict.
And Joan, there's been a similar median restriction or where they adjusted the turn lanes, right? Domingo, we went and saw that on our field visit. Do you remember the street? Okay. There's a recent example where they did median modification within Pinellas County that was something that we thought could be mirrored or a process that could be followed for 49.
It didn't say it was impossible, just, carefully done, because.
Right, I understand.
And Commissioner, I mean, as you just stated, sometimes you have the consultant's recommendation, and as you get in and you talk to businesses, maybe you can do it in certain areas, in other areas you can't, and you modify from that. So part of it is the implementation and seeing, what's practical, whether you can get business owners to agree or whether there's opposition and you can't, because you can't deny somebody access to the parcel.
Yeah.
So.
The pedestrian piece along 49th Street, and I know we had where I used to be, we had an area that we wanted to make it a trail spur. So we took a 4-foot sidewalk, 4 or 5-foot sidewalk, and added a 2-piece section to it. So now you had that 6 or 7-foot sidewalk. Because I think people will still want to be on 49th Street. I mean, I do understand the idea of getting a parallel street and trying to make that the designated, but, we all know how human nature is, like, let's just stick to the sidewalk. But there are opportunities, I would think, and I don't know if our sidewalks go right up to the property lines, or if there's an easement area there where we could, keeping bikes on the sidewalks is not just the worst idea ever. I mean, sometimes it's even a better one. Old ideas bringing them forward, right? So,
Right, you could do a lane width reduction. You could move the curb, reconstruct the curb, drainage and sidewalk, and potentially along some segments of the corridor gain 2 or 3 feet. But the cost of that can be exorbitant. So again, we looked at that as a constraint, but if that's something that staff.
Barry doesn't have a lot of penny money for us for that kind of stuff, so I'm kidding.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we did, the right-of-way on the south area is constrained. We are backing up against the property line. We took a close look at that, and there's really not much opportunity to expand out. If we are going to do anything, it would need to be towards the center of the roadway.
And then the last thing I would just ask, I don't really know, the idea when you come to intersections, that's where you find a lot of problems, a lot of conflict points. Is there a practice that uses colored pavement, or, that as you approach intersections that make people like, it draws their attention to?
So we do have advanced warning. You see that a lot more on rural roads, so a higher speed DOT road if you're traveling through the country and there's a stoplight, that you will get a flashing beacon that's in advance. There are some opportunities in more of an urban environment, not necessarily that flashing beacon, but some signage that says 54th Street coming. But I haven't seen anything as far as a colored pavement that would warn drivers of an impending intersection.
I just, from my perspective, we're over-signed. And there's so many signs out there, just throw another sign, nobody pays any attention to it. Sometimes when you get that change of, and I've seen it, the colored pavements and sometimes it just gets your attention a little bit more for, slow down a little bit. This is an area that has a lot of issues that, anyway, it was just a thought. I like the speed feedback signs. Those are always good, because I think most of the drivers want to be rule abiding. So if you remind them that, you're going to, not that any of us ever go over the speed limit. Kidding, of course. But yeah, so that, just reminding folks that
And for
really.
me, the most ironic part is that happens right in front of the county jail.
Appreciate that. Any other comments? Commissioner Peters, I haven't seen any hands up. I'm assuming you're okay. You don't have any questions on this? We will move on.
No, I'm good. I'm good, Commissioner. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on. Thank you for your presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here as well. We'll move on to our post-disaster recovery program.
Yeah, Commissioners, and Lourdes is on her way up. We've sent you out some information. Back in December, we were requested to provide information regarding potential grant opportunities at the federal government. We went through an internal process. Obviously, all of our commission meetings had ended. We needed to submit something within a few days. We did an internal staff analysis and made that request. I sent that request to you. We've already been notified of an appropriation. It was based upon the amount of the disaster. So they had a formula that they used in doing that. We kind of modeled our request based upon us comparing to Lee County and what they had done down in Fort Myer area a couple of years ago. To our surprise, they've already come out with the, award. Now, the award does not mean they've sent us a check, okay? And as with any federal grant program, there are all kinds of strings that are embedded in this. However, we got ahead of this back in December and said that we figured this was going to come. We already started an RFP process to bring a consulting team on board for preparing the plan that would be necessary to meet the grant obligations, and that would assist us in managing a program like this to assist our residents. So we're way ahead of the game. But we wanted to outline kind of what that looks like and our thoughts at this point. There's going to be a lot more information to come. We know some. There's going to be a lot more that will come later. But there's a variety of different programs that are out there, and it's confusing. So one of our obligations really is to try to map this out to where people can understand what's available maybe today, what may be available in the future, so they can make decisions regarding, their life. We're going to have a full report on Tuesday regarding our, from Kathy Perkins, from Kevin McAndrew, from either be Jill or Kelly. So we can kind of give you the full breadth of all of the current ongoing operations. But today we wanted to kind of outline what do we see in post-disaster recovery, grant opportunities, and things like that. I've asked Lourdes to take the lead on this up to this point, and this is a big deal, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of time and community coordination. So we're even going to have to think about how we organize ourselves to be able to manage that. And so at this point, I'll turn it over to Lourdes, let her give you an update, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Barry. That was a great summary. He's done most of it, so I can sit down.
You're finished?
Yes, I'm done.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. Lourdes Benedict, Assistant County Administrator. So I'm here to provide a post-disaster recovery update, like Barry said. But what I want you to know, and please know, is that this is very rapid, very fluid. I put the PowerPoint together, and within hours, we get more information, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. That means things are moving quickly, which we want them to move quickly to help our residents, right? That's what this is all about. So we're okay with that. So here's what we know at this point in the recovery and the next steps for homeowners, right? That's what we're here to do today, is to inform our homeowners and let them know the latest and greatest. Very first thing that we need people to know, and our communications office, I think, did a great job of pushing out this information constantly about applying for FEMA. So FEMA application registration deadline was January 7th, right? Very important date. But what we want folks to understand, even though it was January 7th, continue to apply, continue to register if you have not. What we understand from FEMA is that they're going to give folks a 30-day grace period, but it won't be easy. It'll be a little bit of an uphill climb because you'll need to prove why you didn't apply by the deadline. But I just wanted folks to hear that, please still go in and apply. So we really want to encourage that. So for those who did apply, they may be eligible for up to $42,500 in eligible home repairs not covered by insurance for temporary housing, whether it's a hotel or a travel trailer. So as far as direct housing, what does that mean? FEMA leases properties and for temporary housing, and they're doing that right now. We have some information that indicates that about 2,600 households in Pinellas meet the criteria for housing, for temporary housing. And right now, what we're hearing is 953 households say they need the FEMA temporary housing and are working through that process. And this number, again, fluctuates on a daily basis. On every call we have, we get updated information. So direct housing needs assessments, 2 households have been placed in the direct lease program to date, and 433 are pending currently. Then as far as travel trailers, 300, so we have FEMA travel trailers as well as state travel trailers. And as far as FEMA goes, 366 of those travel trailers have been approved, and 3 have been placed, and there are 6 currently in process.
And Commissioners, there's, travel trailers are out there, but they can only be used in certain circumstances. And there's all kinds of rules of where they can be placed, where they can't be placed. They have to be removed. If you're in a hazard area, they have to be removed anytime there's a pending storm. We had 6 pending storms last year, which means that same travel trailer would have to be moved 6 times. I mean, so there's a lot of restrictions on that are state and federally driven. So I only say that because it can be effective in limited circumstances.
Are there state statutes that say that folks, aside from what you just said, have the right
They
to
do.
put the trailer in their driveway or front yard, wherever on their property, to live temporarily?
Correct. From a zoning standpoint, there are state statutes that govern that. We've worked with it. Kevin's working with it. But there are other restrictions that
I understand.
are
I understand
counter
the
to
other
that.
restrictions. I mean, some folks are just doing it on their own.
Yep.
But, because we had somebody from the city of Tarpon that brought that up yesterday, where they were not being allowed to do that. And I think it was related to FEMA.
Well, there's actually, and we could get into that, Kevin would know this a lot better than I, but there's a difference between what's allowed by your zoning, but overrides, where it gets tricky is with HOAs. Okay, so,
The HOAs, in effect, would have to relax as well.
and they don't, they're not governed under that same statute.
Understand, okay.
So as far as the state travel trailers, they've received 52 applications to date, 34 are pending, and 7 have been placed. So total for Pinellas County, through this program, right, there's 10 travel trailers. And to answer maybe some of the question that Commissioner Eggers asked, so the state is working very closely with FEMA to place travel trailers in coastal high hazard areas, and that's still pending. So they're trying to work on some of that, because they do need to be removed every time there's a storm, so that's a lot. So I wanted to give you a little update on hotels, what we call the TSA program, Transitional Shelter Assistance. As far as FEMA is concerned, currently, there's 3,338 households in hotels, and there's also the state hoteling program, which they work very closely with FEMA on, and there's 309 of those households currently. So there's a total of about 3,600 folks in hotels in our area. And, you know, people have checked in and checked out. The most we've seen checked in for FEMA is over 6,000. You know, so again, it ebbs and flows. And that program under FEMA is 90 days is what folks are provided, and that happened pretty quickly. And then after the 90 days, there's more that residents have to do to prove that they still need to continue and have that hotel. And then the state hotel program, we understand, is ending on April 14th. What's important for residents to know is to go to your local DRC, the Disaster Recovery Center, which we have one located in St. Petersburg at the Enoch Davis Center, to get with FEMA, let them know what their needs are. Don't wait until the last minute. You know, we're hearing there's a lot of people going in. I understand there was a couple hundred people at the center on Monday. So, you know, do it now, do it early, and let FEMA know what your needs are.
Lourdes, Commissioner Peters does have a question.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner Peters.
So, Lourdes, it's my understanding they will not reimburse for anyone that was lucky enough to get in an Airbnb. Is that correct?
Yes, it has to be a hotel. It can't be an Airbnb.
So, and it doesn't matter if someone's disabled and a hotel doesn't work.
I can tell you, I
So-
personally talked to FEMA when this all started, and
Yeah.
that is not what they're going to do. So it can't be a resort. It has to be a hotel.
Well,
That is the
Airbnb
rule.
doesn't mean it's a resort.
I'm sorry,
And
Commissioner.
it's so the numbers that you're touting that people are in hotels, I would say that's a fraction of the number of people that ended up in Airbnbs.
Yes, I would agree with you.
Get reimbursed for those Airbnbs. They're still paying mortgages, and we are taking many, many months to get people permits. So people are going to be displaced for a really long time. And I think what nobody is really considering already, so I haven't gotten my permit. It's over 3 months. My mortgage company is now accusing me of insurance fraud because I have not started repairing my house because they don't know that we can't get permits. And so I'm getting started on a tirade I'm going to go on after. And so I won't keep doing this, but there's a huge problem, and it's unfortunate that FEMA will not consider an Airbnb as temporary housing. I don't understand why that's a rule, and I understand I have to go through federal courses for this. But if we're looking at that data and how many thousands of people are in hotels, that is a very low number to the amount of people that are displaced that do not have a place to live, that now have a very difficult time affording day-to-day because of double mortgage and rent and everything else that they have to pay, you know, electric in 2 different properties and water in 2 different properties. And yet the permitting process is taking forever. And so I'll finish that tirade later. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner, and you're absolutely
Commissioner-
right. So these numbers are state and federal programs, not anyone else who has done that on their own.
But, and Commissioner, those are really good comments and stuff that I haven't heard before. I have obviously heard on the permit, but not on how it works with like your insurance company. And you know, we're doing a series of after action for the hurricane, and we're trying to document everything. And of course, we're going through the way we have to comply with FEMA rules for debris and for permitting and everything like that. That'd be another thing to add to that, because I think we really need to create a legislative package to talk about, fixes at the state and federal government that could improve the way in which we respond. So that would be an important point for us to have, document to where we can include that. So thank you.
Yeah, the fact that mortgage companies are upset that the houses aren't being fixed, I mean, it's not enough that they're getting paid.
Right.
Now they're monitoring that fix-up as well. And you'd think that people that are paying would intuitively be
correct.
trying to get it fixed up. So it's weird that they would insert themselves.
And I think that's where we have to get the federal government. I mean, there as part of a rewrite, really there should be some relief for people when they can't be in their house, and if they're not getting FEMA reimbursement, you can't be able to have to pay twice. Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot that I think we could do there from a legislative standpoint as a follow-on to fix some of these competing rules.
Commissioner Flowers.
So I do want to add, Barry, the fact that if somebody has somebody who's disabled, living in a hotel room doesn't work. There's a lot of things when you're disabled. Yeah, they might have a bathroom that accommodates them, but a single hotel room does not necessarily work for people with disabilities. Many people with disabilities. And so the fact that you can't get an Airbnb, I think is just, I remember reading about some of the rationale as to why, but I think there should be a workaround on that.
Okay. Is that all, Commissioner Peters?
Yeah, thank you. I've got more, but I'll do it later when Lourdes is done.
Okay. Commissioner Flowers?
Thank you. Lourdes, for those individuals who are residing in the FEMA trailers, the ones that have been approved, is there a time frame by which they can reside in that trailer?
No, I'm hearing about 18 months, give or take.
Okay. And
Again, the important thing is, once the deadline is up or getting closer, what I continue to hear from FEMA is call us, let us know. We have case managers to help folks.
okay. And when we say the trailers have to be moved if we have storm activity, who covers the cost for the moving of that trailer?
I believe FEMA does. They're going in, they're installing, they're taking care of just about everything.
The connections to plumbing and all of that stuff? Okay.
And Commissioner, on that note, though, and Kevin will correct me by nodding, but if it's an individual, they have a trailer and they do that because they didn't go through the FEMA process, then it'd be on them because they would still have to move it. So they have the
yeah.
zoning issue, but then
yeah.
it would be up to them to move it.
Yeah, I know about personal. I was just trying to get more information. I reached out to Lourdes about some persons.
Okay.
And potentially maybe this may be an option for this person who has 4 children. So that's why I was asking, because I don't think she has the capabilities of moving a trailer or whatever. So I'll just ask her to reach out. So you did share that there is the possibility for persons to perhaps be extended beyond that 90-day
Yes.
time frame, but they have to contact FEMA, and the process may be a little arduous. Do you know what would they be looking for additionally? I mean, because if the house is completely gone, like 2 trees fell on it and it's flat, a photo of that plus proof that that was their home, for me, that would be proof, but that may not be proof of FEMA, so.
So when we've had those conversations with FEMA, what they're looking for is, did you have insurance? Are you following through? You know, are you doing the things you're supposed to be doing? There's a lot of things folks are supposed to be doing, right? You know, working with contractors, getting permits. So they need to be working the plan and prove that to FEMA. That's what we're told.
Okay, so I am hopeful because we do know that some permits are delayed. I'm not harping on that. I know people are trying. But in some instances, you know, they can't really get contractors until they know that they've been approved. So that's, you know, like a delay. And then to get the permit for the work, you can't do that until you've, you know, been cleared and you have someone come in and do whatever specs they need to do in order to pull the permits. The last thing I'll say is, I know this has nothing to do with you all, but to even read the stories, see the news reports about persons like this one lady in St. Pete, her house was valued at about $350,000. Citizens said they'd only cover $279,000 of her home, but the check they sent was for $50,000, and they said that that's all they're gonna pay. And, you know, so again, that's not us. I know we can't do anything about that, but I'm just sharing again another, and she can go in and contest that 50,000 or whatever. But again, just another instance of where someone's up against this 90-day timeline. They were prepared for, you know, getting ready to pull permits and all of that stuff because that part had been approved. They were told this is what Citizens, which is not us, this is what Citizens gonna pay, and we know that that's the state insurance. But when she got the check, it was $50,000, and they said that that was all that they were gonna do. So, yeah, and she went through the process of refuting, you know, and she had a legitimate contractor, went through all of that, had them resubmit, which is what Citizens told her to do. They denied it a second time, and so now it's a news story. And then as a result of that news story showing, many others now coming forward saying they've done the same to us. And I think I shared with you, I got calls from people as far down as Fort Lauderdale saying that, you know, hey, this is what's happening to us. You might have the same issue. So I'm just sharing that so you guys will know. And it's good that there may be some other options, but if the person has gotten this check from the insurance company and it may not be, you know, enough to even put up the drywall, then my question is, do you think that then takes them out of eligibility because they're still homeless? Would that take them out of eligibility for housing through FEMA because there is a refuting of the payout amount from their insurance company?
Yeah, personally, I don't think it does, only from the conversations we've had with FEMA. We have a FEMA representative at the EOC still to this day. They just switched out, so they have a new team in there right now. And when we bring situations up to them, again, it's get with us. We have case management. We want to hear people's individual stories to see how we can help them.
You're going to go.
That's what I hear.
And again, I'm not saying that's the county. I want to,
Yeah.
you know, keep reiterating that. But as I shared with Lourdes yesterday, people know it's FEMA, but we are the closest
Right.
in some instances that they can get. And so they are frustrated, upset, angry, mad. So they share it with us, and then I just try to see how we can both best help or direct for help.
And that's what we're going to go through a variety of different grant programs. Each one, you know, may be a little different. So they may be eligible under this one, and for the difference of the uninsured amount under another program, maybe they're not. And so we're going to go through these, but that's exactly the reason we're putting these up, to where people have different avenues to apply and apply for all, you know, and go through them. And because it's an opportunity. And then there's going to be ones that are going to be forthcoming that we currently don't have. So we're trying to just put some light on opportunities there of how people what opportunities are out there, because people don't know.
And
It's
the
very
last thing-
confusing for people.
The last thing I'll say is I've also asked them to share it with their senator and/or House of Representative member, since Citizens is the state insurance, to share with them, you know, and provide that documentation that shows,
Right.
you know, when the person came out to assess the damage, you know, this is what they said, and that's what they're going on based on expertise as it relates to going out and inspecting the home. So I've also asked them to share it with them, and maybe they can also help push some buttons or whatever. But I do thank you for your guidance on yesterday and your information, and hope some
And
of what
Barry,
you're sharing.
and Barry is exactly right. That's why we're here today, right? That's why I'm standing here in front of you to try and explain all the different programs. And there is hope, right, with this huge pot of money that we expect to get. So the important thing is that they go in there, apply for FEMA, because just about every program is linked to that in one way or another. So that's the message today. So I'll go ahead and continue on. So you heard Bruce speak just recently about the county program that opened up on December 23rd, and it's the county income eligible. We need to remember that. Hurricane home repair application. And with that program, you can get home repair program for up to $30,000 in extra repair costs not covered by insurance or FEMA. Eligible repair examples: roof, tree removal, windows, HVAC, electrical, mold remediation, which we hear a lot, people need that, drywall, flooring, et cetera. It must be, this is just a recap, right? You heard all of this from Bruce recently. Must be your primary residence and located in Pinellas County. The assessed value, which is from the Pinellas County property appraiser, the structure and the land needs to not exceed $375,000. Okay? Then when we look at the income, all right, cannot exceed 120% of the area median income. And you'll see I provided a little chart there for folks, 1 to 2 to 4 people, and what it needs to be. So again, it's important for our residents to go to pinellas.gov/storm repair to get that information and get updates on that. And now this does exclude Clearwater, St. Pete, and Largo, which have their own funds for these affordable programs, housing programs. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. So some additional items that I wanted to make sure and note, that applicants will be prioritized based on need and income, starting with special needs households, followed by those earning 50 to 80% of the AMI income or less. Mobile homes built since 1994 also qualify. That's a question that we seem to get often. All construction work must be permitted and completed by licensed and insured contractors. And applicants must provide homeowners insurance information and FEMA award or denial letter. Again, important to get with FEMA and get your registration in. Just a couple of program notes and some data since Bruce spoke. 481 pre-screening applications have been submitted. 45 have been approved and moved on to the next step. A big significant number of them were missing the FEMA approval or denial information. So again, that's important. 183 of those denials lived in St. Pete, and our team went ahead and sent those to St. Pete. Their program, we understand, is going to start in February. All right, so we've submitted that to St. Pete, and we've let the residents know. Largo and Clearwater are already up and running. So that's a little bit about that. And again, residents, please go on to disasterpinellas.gov to get the latest and greatest on that.
So up until this point, we've been using the house value to determine this percentage. So, and now we've switched on these, a $375,000 home, which includes the land, and some of these, it's not much. I mean, the homes, a lot of those homes are, and their income eligibility issue. So
Correct.
where do we find these applications where are they coming from mostly? They're not coming along the waterfront, right? Do we know where they're coming from?
I don't, Bruce probably knows the answer.
481 that have been submitted? Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a market for it. I was just curious what's,
And I tell you, we pulled some GIS data, and there'd be about over 7,000 that we believe would be eligible because of their income and because of the 375,000. But Bruce, do you know the answer to that?
Good morning. We haven't done mapping exercise yet. We've been going through these. I'm happy to report that we have now, as of this morning, gone through all the pre-screening. A lot of these homes are located in some of our other municipalities. Oldsmar, we've seen quite a few from Dunedin, those areas. Palm Harbor, some of the Crystal Bay, newer manufactured homes. So we haven't really had the chance to kind of map out all those applications. We've been, a little bit overwhelmed with the volume that have come in, but we've worked through all the pre-screenings, determined that initial eligibility, moving those on to the next phase. So we can do some mapping on the applications, but to your point, it's not typically the Treasure Island Bay, beach area properties. And again, this is an affordable housing funding source. And so that threshold is by the state statute that governs the SHIP program. We use that for our down payment assistance and home repair program typically because we know for a home buyer that meets the income qualifications, they're not going to be able to buy a $1 million home. And also in this scenario, we're using the property appraiser's assessed value. And so that 375 is often lower than if you were to go get an appraisal today. So that's not as low as it sounds in that sense. It's typically lower than the just value and those kind of things because it takes into consideration homestead exemption. So it's a challenge that we're having. We have had to disqualify some because of that.
I just wanted, folks that might be listening, this is a narrow eligibility pool. I mean, when you put all these things in there, that's all. So not everybody's going to be, eligible for this. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, so the next program is the U.S. Small Business Association loan. Again, application period deadline was January 7th. Please go in there still and continue to apply. For those who did apply, they can receive up to $500,000 in disaster loans for their home or business. And this is to help with, physical damage mitigation is hugely important. Next program is the Hope Florida program. It's a state-run program. And folks can go in and apply the hopeflorida.com. They have Hope Navigators. I actually called myself on Sunday, and they answered, and I got through to them. So it does work. They have navigators that are helping people, not just even with housing. It could be clothing. It could be food, a variety of needs. So that's the Hope Florida program. And then next, we have the National Flood Insurance Program, also we call it NFIP. Bless you. And this program is, government managed, and it helps owners, renters, businesses participating in the program. And that's up to $30,000 to elevate your home. And it's also, if you carry that on your flood insurance, right? And you have 60 days from when you get your substantial damage letter to apply. So it's to elevate, but it's also to help you pay for up to 3 years of your flood insurance. Then we have Elevate Florida, which is a state program that we're waiting on, right? We talked to them quite a bit about this. It's a possibility of up to $400 million for the state. And we're expecting that they're going to put in some more money. There's some SWIFT money, they call it, to put in for here. And it's upcoming statewide flood mitigation program. The main focus areas, obviously, are those affected by Debbie, Milton, and Helene. And it's priority on substantial damage, especially repetitive loss and severe repetitive loss individuals. As of February, countywide, there was 1,800 repetitive loss folks and 599 severe repetitive loss.
Commissioners,
So it's quite a few.
this program is really what our emergency management director, Kevin Guthrie, is trying to take an existing program. He's trying to take an existing program and make it better. Under the existing federal program, takes about 3 years to get through that program, elevate, to get money to be able to elevate, and it's incredibly cumbersome. I mean, approving contractor contracts and draws on a contract. I mean, think about the management to do something like that. That's the reason cities really don't participate in it very much. He's trying to take that program through this and streamline it to where his target is to make it a year, to where you can get this within a year. But we've never done it before. And I say that because it's a great effort. We just don't know what the outcome's going to be. But he is a local government guy. He's from Pasco County. He was their emergency management director. He understands the impact that this has on residents. And so I'm saying it because I think he's doing exactly what he should be doing. It's just that he's going to have to deal with the bureaucracy of trying to streamline that program. But that's what he's trying to do with this program. Details to follow because they haven't stood it up yet.
And some of the things we do know from Kevin is that homeowners match would be either 0%, it could be, depending on their income, 10% or 25%. It won't be a reimbursable grant. They basically come out and take care of it, right? So they're going to hire the contractor and the vendors to get this done. And we expect it to be, by next week, they'll hire someone mid-January, and they believe that applications will be open by March 10th. So it's pretty quick turnaround. They expect to start construction of these locations 6 to 9 months. So that's pretty quick, same as what Barry said.
Are we starting to get any, it's probably too early, but I know that there are some some contractors that have repositioned themselves almost to be one of these contractors that does the elevation. So have we started to get any sense of costs per square foot on houses? Does it depend on the house, the kind of construction of the home? I mean, folks are just totally in the dark on this stuff, so, you start to get construction costs under normal things and get a sense of that. But any place where that kind of information is starting to be?
I just looked over to Kevin and he shook his head no, so I'm assuming not yet.
I don't know cost per square foot, but I did have a person reach out because they were upset. Modest home, little over 2,000 square feet, $400,000 to raise their house up. Which was more than the house.
Yeah.
So they said they're leaving, they can't afford it, they don't have it.
I think that is, we've heard similar things, out there. I just don't know the answer to that.
So, depending on the funding or your income, it's going to be from 0 to 25% matching by the, so in that case, the person would have to come up with if it was worst case, I'm just using this example, they'd have to come up with 100,000.
Yeah, and what we're looking at with this new money is, could that be part of a match, right? So it's a puzzle almost.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Right.
And it may be a combination of several grant programs that you would cobble together for funding.
So again, important information is for residents to get on that floridadisaster.org website that I have listed there and sign up, because they will get updates as soon as that program is out and available. So what's exciting, what Barry was talking about, and I know you all have already received this information, is we went after the future funding, like he said. We've already gotten announcements back. We don't have the official yet, which starts the clock ticking. We expect that soon, so I won't spend much time on that.
Commissioners, you're going to have an award to contractors. We're going to recommend that you provide us the authority to contract with, I think there's 8 or 10, 11 different firms, because we may use one for certain types of things and a different one for that. It's going to be on the January 28th agenda for award. So that will be the consulting team that will work to put together the plan, to actually manage programs. But we bid that out in anticipation of being able to receive federal funding.
So that's over $813 million. St. Pete also got their own allocation, which is a great thing, of $159 million.
And just the 815, the money is countywide, you know, outside of St. Pete, I mean, because they got their own direct award. I mean, so part of the program is figure out how to work with our municipal partners. I mean, this is going to be a big deal.
And some of the things that we've learned from looking at Lee County and others is the award typically has varying qualification amounts, restrictions on income, award amounts, funding, distribution, and rebuilding standards. So that's something, you know, that we're paying attention to. Some may require work to be paid up front, while others can be paid directly. In most cases, you must be approved before you spend the money. Again, that's another big message to get out to our residents. Reimbursement work done prior to the application is not usually allowed. So as far as next steps with all of this, like Barry said, we're developing a plan, already working with one of our vendors. And what it would cover, this is not just housing, I want to make sure and make that clear. It's for housing, disaster relief, long-term recovery, infrastructure restoration, right? We need a lot of that, and economic revitalization. And some of the examples that others have used, replace damaged affordable housing and build it back to be more resilient, strengthen infrastructure through repairs, upgrades, and activities, support economic revitalization, including support for small businesses, creation of jobs and assistance for residents, and the list just goes on as far as the examples. Again, real important, stay connected with us. You see the website there. As soon as we get information, our communications team has done a great job of putting information on the website and having people understand where we're at with all of this. So we have begun a lot of the work already. Like Barry said, we have RSF teams, we call them, recovery support functions. We meet on a weekly basis. It's not just us sitting in a room. It's not just county folks. It's a lot of our community partners and our cities are on these teams, and they talk. The different groups are about health and social services, housing, infrastructure, natural and cultural resources, et cetera. We have many of those teams. We're already gathering information to put this plan together. So we are really, you know, ahead of the game as far as that is concerned. And then last but not least, this is just a summary of some of the different options that our residents have. Again, we wanted to bring you some hope today, some information on what can happen in the future. So we're excited. There's a lot of work to be done, but we have hope here for our residents.
This presentation that you've put together, is it available for residents to look at?
Sure, it's online.
It's
Yep.
online. So folks or HOAs or whoever else, churches, whoever wants to get that information can go online and have that. They won't have an expert necessarily showing the presentation to a group, but at least they would have the information.
You know, this is also online, right? We put that online right after the meeting, so.
I know we all know this.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of
I'm just
people who
saying it
don't
for the
know.
residents.
Yeah. So,
And that's
yeah.
the point. We'll make sure Barbara's here. I mean, we'll make sure it's available for our
Yeah.
residents to see. It's at least one place to go to trigger, okay, you know, here. And, you know,
I'm not sure how, I mean, I think it's great to have it. I just think having somebody that somewhat knows what they're talking about is also helpful. I don't know if we can
well,
make
but
people.
we're going to need to do that. And we're even thinking internally, I'm thinking internally about how do we make these programs happen? You know, just like, you know, when we, on a much smaller scale, you know, had the ARPA funds, you know, and what it took to administer those funds, you know, and the reporting and the audit and everything internally. So, you know, we're thinking internally about how we're doing that. What we wanted to do is get these balls moving. Get the consulting team on board that can prepare the plan that meets the federal guidelines, that comes into you, has community groups where we get community input into this process. Talk to all of our municipal partners, 23 municipal partners, and you, and I mean, there's a lot that goes into creating that plan. The plan that come out of Lee County's, how many pages?
415 something.
You know, there's a lot that goes into that. So the good part is that we will have a team on board. We're ahead of that. We can get them working tomorrow, the day after you sign that agreement, while we're looking internally about how do we resource ourselves to be able to prepare, to be able to deliver these programs.
I understand. And the only thing I was really getting at is taking this presentation on the road.
Yes.
Is really important.
It
Even
is.
if, like in North County, for instance, if you got the college up there to provide their auditorium, for folks who want to learn more about this post-disaster, we'll have somebody that's kind of there to answer some questions. Still, we recommend that you get applications going and all that stuff, but if you want more questions answered, maybe that's a good place to do it. I mean, just, anyway, I know Commissioner Peters wanted to speak. I'm sorry, were you finished?
I'll just say one more thing. So with this plan, we have a very prescriptive timeline. So as soon as we get the official notice from HUD, we have 90 days to turn this around, all right, to get a lot of community feedback, your feedback, et cetera. So there'll be a lot of that, a lot of input. This is not something we do in a vacuum.
Gotcha, thank you. Yeah, let me get Commissioner Peters and then we'll come back. Commissioner Peters, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Thanks, Dave. So I got a couple things. When we look at, and this information I'm about to tell you, and I'm going to be very brief on it because I just want at least the public to know that we're talking about it. Kevin has a letter that has all this outlined, and Barry, I'm going to send it to you as well. But on our website, we offer 4 solutions for property that are substantially damaged. And what we didn't include, there should be a number 5 saying that you can appeal it. It says that we can elevate and repair, we can replace our home and elevate with elevated home, we can move our home, we can move to a new home, but it doesn't say that we can appeal it. And so I think that should be put on our website. It's a simple thing that should have been on there to begin with. A lot of people the stress that people are having is just unsurmountable. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to navigate this. And I think the process that we've chosen is very cumbersome. And I really wish that we had chosen a different process. But that said, I think we've got a problem. Barry, is it Tidal Basin that we're working with?
Yeah.
Is that a yes? I can't hear
I'm
you.
sorry, I had my mic off. Yes.
Okay, so Tidal Basin doesn't allow you to talk to them. So if someone or your contractor has a question about how they're valuing your home, they won't answer you. They don't have a phone number. They ask you to email them. They don't respond to your emails. There is absolutely no access to the people from Tidal Basin. And I think that is a huge, huge problem. And so I think we should have staff embedded with Tidal Basin, so that if somebody has a question, at least if they're not going to answer them, at least our staff can say, well, this is what they're coming from. And so I think that's a huge problem. And I think I think the biggest problem, most of the problems that we would have where people have to appeal would have been fixed before the appeal process, before the letter went out, if they would take a call or an email, and they are not doing that. I think that's a huge problem. I got a couple more, I'm sorry. So
Commissioner Peters, would you like someone to respond to that first comment?
Well, I mean, I could throw it all out there, but, and then you could comment afterwards. And this email's gone out and Kevin's seen it. And I will say publicly, Kevin has done an incredible job. But a lot of the call for Kevin to talk to people is going to get so overburdensome for him that he won't even be able to do another job. But if we had somebody inside Tidal Basin, or at least if Tidal Basin would be responsive, that could really solve a lot of these problems. Kevin's done a great job at navigating this and helping people understand and get through. But why should it just be Kevin? Why can't we talk to people at Tidal Basin? And that's a huge problem. So there's the depreciation calculation, I think, is a problem. Is the building design, right? So there's problems with asking a question about the building design. Well, if there's a determination on whether it's designed by concrete. Well, there's 3 different ways you can determine if it's concrete. And so I just think, I know Kevin has this letter, I'm going to send it to Barry. there's a bunch of issues that that are highlighted in this letter, and it's from a 20-year property appraiser who's been in this business for years, who really gets it and understands it. And I know he's working with Kevin already, so Kevin understands it. But I just wanted to publicly say that there are huge problems, and this is taking far, far, far too long. I question if the way St. Petersburg or Clearwater would have been the better route to go. I don't understand why we can't just take the letter on the property appraiser's website, and if our contractor says, you know, my letter says I got 444,000 is my property value, so I have 222,000 I can spend. My total cost is under 90,000. You know, what's the holdup? Why should I even have to wait for a substantial damage letter if it says my amount that I could spend is 222,000, the cost to repair is 90,000 yet, and I know I'm not in the county and this is the city, but the county's using the same process the city is. The county's using Tidal Basin just like the cities are. Tidal Basin clearly in Treasure Island and St. Pete Beach are sending out letters that are not accurate. So I have to assume Tidal Basin is sending out letters in the county that are not accurate. And yet people can't get started. I'm getting accused of insurance fraud, right? Because I can't get started. I'm letting my frustration out. I've been holding it in for months and I'm not holding it in anymore because I'm not the only one. And so why can't, if a citizen, just, I'm gonna use myself as an example, if I can fix my house at 90,000 and I have 224,000 to spend, why do I have to wait for a substantial damage letter? Why can't I get a permit right now? Because and why can't we hold the contractors and the owners responsible to make sure they stay within their 50%? Why are we holding it up? I don't think there's any reason in this world that we have to make people live outside of their home for many, many months and make it almost impossible to be able to afford and not give them a permit. I think it's completely wrong. It's inexcusable, and I think there's better ways to go. And like I said, I'm not sure that St. Pete and Clearwater's method is better, but at least those people for months, and I'm talking 2.5 months, they've had permits where other people in the county have not. And so I have to believe whether they're going to dot every I or cross every T for FEMA's requirements, maybe it'll be more challenging and more difficult, but at least people were able to get back in their homes within a month. And unfortunately, we have tens of thousands of people that can't even get started yet. And I just think that we need to do things different and better, and we need to expedite these things now. I have one person who has been, I mean, I understand his frustration. He called me, it was like 7:50 in the morning, and for 45 minutes yelled. I mean, yelled. I couldn't get a word in, just yelled. And I'm not going to be upset with him because I understand his frustration. And if you know, those of you that are not going through this, you can't even imagine, even talking to residents, you cannot imagine how incredibly difficult and frustrating this is. And there's absolutely no excuse that almost 4 months later, people still are waiting for a permit. And we need to fix that. We need to get permits expedited, and we need to have somebody be able to communicate with Tidal Basin other than just for Kevin. I'm sorry, he's doing an outstanding job, but you know, it's inexcusable that Tidal Basin will not accept a phone call or answer an email. It's totally inexcusable. And so I'm going to finish my tirade. Barry, I'm going to send you the rest of the issues. But I think we should, and our citizens deserve better.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Barry?
Well, there's a lot that's in that. That was going to be part of our presentation on Tuesday. I was going to have Kevin give an update on where we're at. He can address the items addressed in the letter. We understand that frustration. There's no question. There's a capacity issue. The municipalities, first off, you know, if I go down and I start addressing some of the comments within, you know, that I'd rather Kevin do that. I mean, the reality is each municipality has their own quality assurance process. That determines the letter that goes out. We did have 14 letters that went out in error, but our staff contacted them personally, each one, to clear that up, which is about all you can do when you're trying to push out 6,000 letters, you know, and stuff. So I think they've done a good job with that. The timeline is absolutely inexcusable. There's reasons for it, but it doesn't make it any better for the homeowner. And so we're doing everything that we can. But I think, you know, send me that. I'll get with staff, and then we'll address that in our comments on Tuesday, because I want them to give a complete update of where we're at, and I'm sure we're going to have citizens here, so that way they can hear it all live at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and Kevin, I'm sure, is fully familiar with what Commissioner Peters said, that this, one or two other cities are doing that she compared to, just so that we can be transparent with our
Absolutely.
residents, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not all perfect. We're working through this, but maybe some comments on that as well, because I think everybody's just, like Commissioner Peters said, I'm not living through it, so I can't begin to understand the feelings that people have. But like Commissioner Peters, when they call and yell, I listen, because that's the least we can do. It's almost impossible situation that folks are living through. So, and so anyway.
Dave, just one more thing. Barry, is there any way, since I believe what Tidal Basin is doing is flawed, just my opinion, is there any way that if they're going to designate a substantially damaged property, that we can then send someone out to look? Because the fact that they are standing at a street corner and saying, you lost your air conditioner, you lost your floor, you lost your drywall, you lost your cabinets, you lost. Where in fact, in my house where they never went inside, I never lost a floor, I never lost an air conditioner. They aren't looking at the permits that were done previously to improve the house, is what I'm getting out of what I'm hearing. So is there any way that if there's going to be a substantial damage determination, our staff can analyze any permits that were pulled, or we could send somebody in to actually walk inside? Because I think that would even help with our, the challenges that go with it. And I know that takes more staff, but and it will take more time. But if you have to appeal this, we're talking months more, maybe.
Well,
And I think you came up with an appeal process that's shorter.
We do.
But I
And
think-
that's really what we were wanting for people to use. If you believe that's an error, provide that evidence. I mean, you're exactly right, Commissioner. These are drive-by, the same way in which FEMA's going to audit. They're going to come back, they're going to look at the base flood elevations, they're going to look at the inundation maps to see what structures are there. But if you have photos, and that's that appeal process that we set up to make it real easy, because the initial one is the preliminary determination, not a final determination. You then can submit evidence, and then that's when we make the final determination based upon that. And so there's kind of that two-step process, and then we set up a process to have a hearing officer where you could even appeal that. And so we set it up that way to get it out quickly, because if you would have done detailed, well then again it would have slowed the process. That's slow now would have even taken longer, because there is simply not enough people to do those inspections. We're trying to divide those out to the municipalities, and everybody's saying we don't have enough to be able to do the work. So I understand the frustration. I really do, but you're right, I haven't lived it. And so, but Kevin and them, that team, I met with Tidal Basin just, 2 days ago. They're work, and they have been working nonstop on this. And so I understand it's not enough, but I just received your letter. I provided that to Kevin and Tom. We will go through that and answer all these things on Tuesday, and I think you'll be here Tuesday so you can hear it firsthand.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Peters, for your thoughts and a lot of feelings in there too. And I certainly appreciate what you're going through and a lot of our residents are going through. It just hurts, and it's hurting over a long period of time. And when we look back on this, there's going to be some things we did okay and some things we didn't. So I think in the meantime, if we can do that little iterative check a little bit quicker, so keep making improvements and adjustments on the fly, just to shorten that time window, that hurt period. Obviously, we'll do. Yes, Commissioner Scheer.
Well, Commissioner Eggers, I've been thinking about this a long time. And first of all, Commissioner Peters, I don't think you've ranted long enough. Our citizens are looking to us to help them. And I'm looking around this room and I'm seeing some of the brightest minds in Pinellas County. Our county attorney, Lords, our building officials, Barry, we have been so focused on complying with FEMA's demands that we have lost track of what we're supposed to be doing, which is helping our people get back in their homes. Now, I saw this coming, and everybody's seeing it now. We are going to be condemning thousands of homes if we keep doing it this way. And then they're going to get all these lots are going to be purchased up by corporations from out of town, and they're going to become rental properties. And if that's what we want, that's what we're going for. And they got a list of all these houses, and they're coming for them. They're already bidding on them. Now, Commissioner Peters, to help you, I would like to say that what we need to do right now, the first thing we could be doing right now, is we could develop a list of exemptions and waivers that we're going to grant to our citizens to rebuild their homes. We could get it done this week. We could vote on it next week so people can get their permits. We could allow people to use FEMA elevations, number one, so they don't have to comply with 50%. We could allow people to get a waiver if their house was deemed destroyed by a drive-by inspection, which doesn't mean anything to me. We could give people the right to a waiver on the substantial damage assessments if they're going to do their own work on their house, if they're going to rebuild it themselves. We could give people a waiver who don't even have flood insurance. Why? If I haven't paid for a flood insurance on my house in 50 years, why do I care whether or not FEMA wants me to move back into my house? If I got the cash to do it, I want to do it. You know, why can't we have a waiver for people who say, okay, I don't want a FEMA. I'm not going to make it a claim on my insurance. Just let me get back in my home. Let me spend $75,000 on my home. Let me get back in. Instead of working so hard to comply with FEMA, how about let's assist our homeowners with their appeals? I mean, I know that what I'm going to hear is, oh, they're going to punish us in the future. They're going to beat us up. We'll lose our Class 2 rating. Well, you know what? A lot of the reasons that we're having houses just condemned is because we agreed to comply with these rules we shouldn't have. And I think we should get together this week and put together a list of exemptions that are allowable so people can walk in and get their permit to rebuild their house and move in. They can't afford to make their mortgage payment and pay for a house that hopefully FEMA is going to reimburse them for in the future. I'm willing to sit down with staff and work out these exemptions that would work, and we just call FEMA and we'll just sit them down. I met with 5 of them in my office the Monday before Christmas. They all came to see me because they've heard me saying we should do something. I know what they're going to say, no. And I'm saying yes. We need to work hard to push back on FEMA and these rules because they're crushing our people. And that's what I want to work on this week. And we can put a list together of standard exemptions for our building department to accept. And then maybe our cities will see it and say, you know, we're going to do it too. And we can have a little revolution here on the FEMA rules. Because if we don't do something soon, there's going to be a line of torches and pitchforks out front of this building when people can't move back into their houses and they're losing their houses and they're all being repossessed, or their bank forecloses on their house because they're committing insurance fraud because they haven't fixed their house yet. So I'm volunteering to set up a committee to work on exemptions that we can approve and send it to our building department and say, you will approve these exemptions.
Appreciate your thoughts. Barry?
Substantial damage and substantial improvement, the 50% rule, is not only a FEMA issue, it is in the Florida Building Code. We cannot issue permits, okay, per the Florida Building Code without going through that. Kevin is going to cover that in his presentation on Tuesday.
Okay, well, Chair Scott's not here, so just let him know that this part of the program will be a little bit longer.
I have no doubt.
Because I think it really needs to be aired out. And I really appreciate your comments, Commissioner, and I also appreciate the feelings that came through Commissioner Peters' comments. And I think they're both pretty reflective of what a lot of our residents are feeling. So we just have to make sure that as we talk, it's extremely clear what our boundaries are and why they're there. You know what I mean? I mean, I think that's important for folks to understand.
And
And
we
we can
need-
say we've told them,
Yeah.
but we need to tell them why the boundaries are there and what latitudes we have. So
And that's the reason I said that last part, because we, you know, at a staff level, we have been doing that exactly what you've been asking, is to speed this up, to find ways of getting people back in their homes. Believe me, we want to do the same thing. We do. This is not, we love bureaucracy, and they've been working nonstop of trying to find ways of speeding that up. They set up a call center through one of our outside contracts. So they're trying to do some of that, and I want to address that issue, because what Commissioner Peters said of not being able to do that, there seems to be a disconnect there. So I want Kevin to address that, but I want him to address this concern of what we can do. What if we do waivers? What if we, do that? Because we've had that discussion internally. Again, it's in the Florida Building Code. So it's not that we don't want to do it. It's that, from what we need to articulate what we can do, and if we can't, why. And so we will address that. We're going to, they're here, they've heard this, and we'll incorporate that into our comments.
I think when you start with that, from that position, and you can clearly articulate those boundaries and our limitations and why they're there, then at least folks will keep their hearing turned on for the next conversation. You know what I mean? Otherwise, they're still going back to comment number one, you know? So we've got to make sure that we're crystal clear on that point, and then pause, see if the commissioners have any questions about that, because I think that is an important starting point to this whole, that you guys have gone down that road. I'm not saying that. We've already gone way down that road, but I think as we circle back to this, I think it's important for folks to understand, and for each of us to understand as well.
We will do that.
Okay. Commissioner Flowers, I'm sorry.
So question, are we also, the county, providing the letters of substantial damage to the city of Gulfport?
No, we only provide
To,
the levies for
unincorporated.
unincorporated.
Okay.
We may have inspections for contract communities. They do the inspection, and are using contractors, but they have the quality control process, and they ultimately send out the letters.
And the reason I'm asking that, I've already emailed someone, you all may have also gotten it, but I've had a couple of folks that send emails to us about not receiving their substantial damage. And I always look first, or either call when it's like right on the line, to say who they should be upset with.
Right.
And thank you for sharing that, because not only do I agree with, we should find a way to not only tell persons why certain things are happening, but encourage them, if the process is not working, and clearly it's not all working, encourage them to make those calls to the state, because if it is a Florida building code, then that is something that they can elevate to the next level if they want to look at change in policy or what have you. And then let them work on that, along with insurance issues and concerns, along with flood insurance and who's required to have it and who's not. Most of us, I live in a non-evacuation zone. If we get a really, really bad one, it doesn't matter where you live, everybody's gonna be underwater. But I don't have flood insurance because I'm in a non-evacuation zone area. So I run the risk of, if something were to happen and I get that flood, I'm running the risk of I don't get reimbursement from my insurance for that. And I know that going in, because I've chosen not to purchase flood insurance. So it is, concerning. There were areas that had flood damage that were in zones where flood insurance wasn't required.
Correct.
But the issue is flood for them. And so their insurance is not paying out for that. And so those persons are upset and or concerned as well. But it's just, unfortunately, we had two really bad storms back to back. I don't know of any other community other than those communities that have tornadoes back to back that touch down. I don't know of any other communities or a time when we've had them and they've literally come through the same area, the same footprint. Excuse me, and I think we're moving. We're trying to do what we can to help people on every level. But some of the things we can do, and there are some areas where I agree that we can push back, but then there are other areas where it's not even just a matter of the county no longer being able to participate in certain programs. You've got to remember those homeowners can no longer. If we were to do something outside the boundaries of what's been authorized, it's not just the county, but it's those homeowners that would no longer have an option for that particular coverage for their homes. So it is a very uncomfortable spot to be in. But that's kind of why we're here. We make the uncomfortable, hard decisions.
Yeah, and I would add this, that our voice carries a lot more weight than an individual homeowner calling their state representative or their federal representative. So I'm sure that our staff, as they're going through this thing, hopefully there's a list of suggestions that we're developing and giving feedback to our state legislators and or our federal legislators on the fly, because even if they get so tired of hearing from us, I think they need to hear real time what's going on instead of waiting till the after report is done. You know, that could be 6 months from now. You know, that's the typical thing. So anyway, just that. And the other thing I would say, and you mentioned it, Commissioner Shears, that, and I've said it to Barry a couple of times, when we and we're still in it, we're still in this stuff, but you know, the summer's not that far away. And I just want to make sure, because we've always gone and said, well, whatever the rules were in place at the time of the storm, and I just want to make sure that those rules that we're going by are the ones we want to live by for the next time. Right. And some of that may take some time to look at, for us to deliberate the pluses and minuses and to make a change, if we want to. I think we just really, I know that's another effort among everything else that our wonderful staff is doing, but I just don't want to go another summer necessarily by saying, well, those were the rules that we had in place. If we can, if there's some, I hate to use the low-hanging fruit thing, but if there are some things that we can twist, you know, adjust, not for Tuesday.
I understand.
Anything else?
I like Tuesdays. I'll be happy to do it on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. Anything else, guys? Commissioner Nowicki?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just it's heartbreaking to hear from, you know, Commissioner Peters, Commissioner Scheer, and everyone else that's house flooded. And I don't know, like when they're doing the presentation on Tuesday, that if legal can say, well, hey, what if is there a workaround of Florida building code? I mean, can we, I mean, well, you shake your head no, but you know,
there's not. And that's-
illegal eagles, I don't, you know, I don't.
She can answer that.
Well,
It's frustrating.
Right.
It is, and it's, you know, we oftentimes don't want government to get in our business, and I appreciate folks that feel that way. You know, and then there are times that government has to get into your business and help you. Well, that's what we're looking for right now. And so I think to a lot of the commissioners' comments, to our staff's you know, that's what they want to. I mean, they want to be as helpful as possible. It's not like we're trying to put roadblocks up. I just think those candid self-review along the way is really important, and I know we're doing that. We're making changes and adjustments. I look forward to the presentation on Tuesday. Take a look at what Commissioner Peters had to say, maybe some of the comments that Commissioner Scheer mentioned, and then just kind of think through that a little bit for our presentation on Tuesday.
Will do.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Appreciate it. Okay, we're going on to the
Agenda review.
which, you know, that little report will, I assume we're
Yeah,
going to do that.
I'm assuming Commissioner
We're gonna do
Scott
that
will
the
have
front
this
end?
first, because I'm sure we'll have citizen comments, and so my suggestion to him would be
Yeah,
that
I
we
think there
do that.
will end up being one presentation, I think, is what I'm hearing. There will be a proclamation. It's not on here,
Oh,
but I think it will be on. Is that right, Della?
Commissioner Scott has mentioned, I don't think he's emailed that out yet, that he intends on asking you to add to the agenda a proclamation for Martin Luther King Day.
Correct. Yeah, that's the only, it's not on here, but we'll do that
Correct.
first, obviously. And we'll do citizens to be heard, and then we'll go to, I guess. Will you work out-
I would suggest, I'll suggest the commission, I mean, that's obviously the chair's call, but I would suggest we do our presentation first. It may answer questions that citizens have
Okay.
when they make their
So we'll
comments.
do the proclamation, and then jump straight into the.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, you work that out with Brian when he gets back.
I will.
Commissioner Scott, go ahead.
Okay, under public hearings, we have a couple of public hearings that are related, items 2 and 3 that are related to changes in statute. For instance, the first one is minimum age for employment and adult use establishments 21. It's a change in state law, so this reflects our ordinance changes that. And then the changes to required language on signage in item number 3.
Yes, Commissioner.
So in this, it says that they are required to make sure that on that signage, there's the specific language that they're requesting, but we're saying that there will be no additional staff time. Who goes out to check to make sure that it's being done?
That's Doug Templeton over in our, what's that group? Consumer Protection.
Okay, and so they make periodic
They
stops
make
too?
periodic
Okay.
inspections, and they
Okay.
enforce our ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Then we have, on consent items, we have a variety of receipt for filing, miscellaneous. Item 13 is the next one. It's a grant agreement with Law Enforcement State Crime Analysis Laboratory Systems Grant, $225,000 for the medical examiner, no match. Item 14 is a grant agreement for fiscal year 23 Safe Streets and Roads, kind of timely with our previous presentation. Grant awards over the next 4 years, $2.5 million with a $625,000 county match. Under the regular agenda, item 15 is a third amendment to an agreement with Graybar Electric for various electrical lighting, data communications services that we use. So this just extends that through January 31st of 2029, $1.4 million extension. Item 16 is a Rankin and Firms with Manhattan Construction Company. This is for the passenger terminal at the airport, $374,000.
Just a quick question on that. Sure. What is the significance of a 2,000-day contract?
A what?
A 2,000-day, it's an agreement that is effective for 2,000 days. I don't know I'm just curious, I've never seen that before.
For 2,000, I will have to ask that question.
It's
I
like
do not know.
5.47 years.
Yeah,
and I was like, what
they
is this?
probably put them under contract for a long period, depending upon how long it takes, because they probably get them under contract, they're probably waiting on federal money, is my guess, but I do not know the answer to that.
It's just a strange one.
Della will be tracking this down and asking Tom to explain that.
It's not hugely important.
And,
it
and
just-
get you an answer before Tuesday.
Thank you, Della.
All right. Item 17 is declaring a county-owned parcel surplus and selling it to Caribbean Isles Owners LLC. Item 18 is affordable housing program for this Azalea Gateway. This is a $5.2 million project for workforce housing, 340 multifamily affordable apartments, broken down by the income restrictions detailed below. It has a variety of different funding sources, and we're one piece of that. Land restriction for 30-year affordability period. Item 19 is for Skyway Apartments funding recommendation, $5.5 million for workforce housing, 401 multifamily units. Again, income restrictions for a variety of the units, but this is only phase one of a much larger development. That'd be 2,000 units total. So you'll see this one again as it goes through other funding cycles. Item 20 is a renewal of a letter for the Byrne Memorial Justice Grant Program countywide. Item 21, eighth amendment to an agreement with Carousel Industries for maintenance and repair of our 911 equipment. So this is an extension. We're going to be going out to RFP for these in calendar year 25, so this extension gives us the time to bid. Item 22 is amendment number 9 to a master agreement with Environmental Systems Research Institute for GIS software. So the amendment increases the contract by $7.5 million, takes us out to 2030. Item 23 is a fourth amendment to authorization with CDW for IT solutions and services. It's a fourth amendment, $350,000. Item 24 is issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds for flats on 4th Street, Archway Flats on 4th Street. $18.5 million. Has a variety of funding sources. So this is you're issuing the multifamily housing bonds. Previously, though, we have Penny for Pinellas funds, St. Petersburg funds, and state sale funds, National Housing Trust funds. So a variety of different funding sources. Item 25, multifamily housing bonds. This is rental housing for Sky Isles Apartments, 133 that are covered under project-based vouchers through St. Petersburg Housing Authority. So there's no county, there's no general fund in this, and no fiscal impact on the county. 26 is a TEFRA hearing for multifamily housing revenue bonds. This is $4 million for Seminole Square Partners, 96 rental programs, has a variety of different funding sources, state 4% low income tax credits, City of Largo funds, Penny for Pinellas funds for our portion of that. And then we go to the county attorney's office.
Under item number 27, similar to what you did in December, this is the approval of the public official bonds that were purchased for the constitutional officers here in Pinellas County. They have I know that some of you were at the swearing-in ceremony on Tuesday. They have a different term of office, so the bonds just get purchased on a little bit different cycle than your own bonds do. So we'll be approving those, or asking you to approve those on Tuesday. Under item 28, this is ratification of a case that that my office filed with the chair's consent related to an animal neglect case. We are simply coming forward and asking for ratification pursuant to your resolution. We have already had a hearing in this matter. The county does have custody of the animals, and the defendant was enjoined from owning animals in the future. However, we are still bringing this forward for ratification, again, pursuant to your policy. Under item number 29, I have sent around the folder for you all to read about the confidential settlement that we're going to be asking you all to approve. Commissioner Peters, if you're still there, I will give you a call before Tuesday, and I will certainly be touching base with the commissioners that are not here. Should any of you that have had an opportunity to read the confidential memo that I circulated today have any questions, I would encourage you to contact me outside of the public setting prior to Tuesday. And I do not anticipate any reports unless you all would like for me to give the report I have put off our last two meetings, given the length of the meetings, and just quickly go over what the charter review amendments were. I think there were 7 that passed. It was something that I know Commissioner Peters 8 had asked me to do, but your last couple meetings have had quite a number of controversial items and have been lengthy, so I have not done that. If there's a will for me to do it, I am certainly happy to do so.
I would just plan for it and see how
Okay.
things go.
And I think really the whole notion of talking to you all here was if there were members of the public, they could hear us discuss, what they were. There were a couple, that were bigger ones. Some of them were just, record-keeping type items, but there were a couple of some significance.
Then I'll probably have a county administrator report, depending on the length of the meeting. That's it.
Okay. Anything from Commissioner Peters? Okay. All right. I would assume that, do we have anything else that we want to bring up for the workshop? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Just gave everybody a letter, just saying with my committee appointments, I, sent them all to Barry's office, and so they have all the contact information, and I'll just be bringing up a new business, but wanted to give the courtesy to my commissioners to have all the names and stuff ahead of time before I bring it up for new business on Tuesday. So, thank you.
Okay.
Chair, I had one other thing I'd like to just
Go ahead.
ask about, because this is a workshop, and I didn't want to bring it up at a regular meeting. Going through the agenda for next week, Skytown, Azalea, The Flats, Sky, Seminole, that's almost, 4,000, almost 3,000 homes that we're supporting through these various programs, Penny for Pinellas dollars, and also through public funding from the Housing Authority, I'm just assuming, floats those bonds.
Different ones, yes.
So I don't know when it becomes the appropriate time as a commission to start talking about, is this the right, proper way to be encouraging affordable housing, Just between these four, and I assume there's going to be more coming up to here, we're pumping like $75 million into the housing market, which will actually have the effect of increasing the costs of land for housing, because we are actually buyers, so we're actually almost fighting against ourselves. And I don't particularly like the idea of using penny dollars to, here's your $5 million developer. Thank you for building these homes, but here's $5 million, when we could, I think, come up with more creative ways with our taxing structure to encourage housing without actually driving the cost of housing up. And so I just wanted to bring it up. I would like this year to work on maybe some other ideas on how to encourage affordable housing rather than just writing checks.
Yeah. Well, and again, I think we will have, one of the things I was going to bring up is, our strategic planning retreats coming up, I think, in February.
It is.
And I would like at least some point in there to be able to address any commissioners' wishes, if you will, for workshop topics. Because that's where we kind of get into some of the stuff that you're talking about a little bit. I mean, this is a merry-go-round that's been spinning around, and you're hopping on right now, and I love that. I love that perspective. We can look at that again. We can always look at our programs that are in place. The Penny for Pinellas that was voted on by the residents in, I don't remember when it was, 3 or 4 years.
2017.
2017, called out for a portion, before the counties and cities get their money, a portion of it for economic development and affordable housing. So it's actual, resident-driven approvals. So we have to be able to use some of those funds, and there's a percentage.
4.5%.
So there's a requirement on how much we have to spend?
It is what we told, we asked the residents what they wanted. They told us what they wanted in general, and we put it on the ballot, and now we've got to, and they proved it, and now we've got to show them that we're doing what we were told to do with their money. As we start to put plans together and, sooner rather than later for the next penny, that's where we start arguing out what about those penny dollars we think should go for. We take it to our residents and get them to buy in, and then it gets on the ballot, and we do that every, it's a process.
Well, I didn't want to interfere with all the work that's been done on these. I just wanted to
No, I
know when
understand.
would be appropriate time to start talking about.
But that is a good workshop topic to where we can come in and talk about the various ways in which affordable housing projects come, to talk about the state programs that are out there, the federal, like the ones here. I mean, there's no project that's coming before us where it's just penny dollars, because the gap's too great, to your point, right? And so it's usually SHIP, 4 or 9% federal tax credits. It's a variety of different programs. So we could have that discussion. If you have ideas, then we could make it into a workshop topic, just like we did for the first one today, and have that on the list of topics for this spring.
Yeah, I think it's great. And again, whenever you have new commissioners come on board, there's new ideas, new thoughts.
Correct.
It's always good to revisit some of it, and we'll see how things go.
Okay, thank you.
But to that point, we are coming up on strategic planning in just a few weeks, and that's an opportunity as a commission for you to tell staff where you want us to focus our time. We focused on the commissions as a whole, their top priorities. And so as you think about the big things, that we're going to have kind of an exercise to put them up and then get a sense from the commission about what the majority think, right? And where we go. And so be thinking about all those different things that you're doing, because it's going to only be in a few weeks.
Yeah, and I'll be whining about my raising the standards for pet stores.
I
so that you
have
know-
no doubt.
All right. We're not talking about closing pet stores. We're just talking about raising the standards under which they operate in
we have
in
that-
our county.
And we have that as a topic that we're going to be discussing with you. Actually, Jennifer and Lourdes are going to be coming to see you and talking through that, providing just background information for new commissioners, well, what we've discussed in the past, but they have their own thoughts. And I know Commissioner Eggers has thoughts, and that's a good thing. And then we'll bring it to a workshop to talk through those and get direction from the commission about where you want to go with it.
Fine. I won't go on any further with that. Commissioner Nowicki?
Sorry, one more thing. Since we're workshopping, things out, I've gotten a lot of emails and, outreach. I think, we sent an update, or an update was sent about this Nebraska Avenue roundabout up in Palm Harbor. And so, is there a way to get like a request, like a staff presentation in front of the commission? So we can air out the thoughts of the commission on that specifically publicly?
We can do that, and Kelly, I just was talking to her yesterday about this very topic. This is a project that's been
Multi-year.
gone.
Multi-year, right?
Yeah, it's been out there. The residents have given feedback a couple of times before the 30% completion of the engineering drawings. I think they're up to about 90%. I just suggested that we might have another visit with the residents to let them know what the 90% engineering results show. And so we hear from the folks that live on Nebraska pretty consistently. There's also folks from Westlake Village. It's a huge area just a little to the east that are also weighing in. So we're getting multiple, things. It all started basically because of flood issues in that area, so that we were bringing infrastructure that supported taking care of the flood problems. And in doing that, you only get to look at these areas every 20 or 30 years. So we want to make sure we looked at other infrastructure improvements that went with it. That's the premise behind the start of it. And what they've developed along the way has been very appealing to some and not to others, because this is a huge right-of-way that residents in that area have been, rightfully so, using over the last 3 or 4 decades. And now this project might take some of that freedom of using our right-of-way away from them. And so that's been some of the issues that have come up, and there's some well-thought-through questions and comments. I do think it's appropriate for us to maybe get an update from staff about that project. I think it's a significant project on one of our collector roads. I've said I'm not convinced completely on the small roundabout there. I'm not an anti-roundabout. I've supported the one on Alt 19, and frankly, it was like almost a public lynching ahead of time. But after the fact, it's been silent because it's great. That roundabout on Alt 19 is working really well. This one, I'm just not sure about, and she said that they're going to try to talk some sense into me.
So they're going to, so Kelly's going to come and see you.
Yeah.
So they're going to set up individual meetings with you to give you some, because, Commissioner Eggers, it'll be, because he's been through it, but then they'll give you some of that background. But also, just so you know, that survey that you was sent with 1,500 names, that was done before we did all the public outreach meetings.
Right.
Okay, so they had that petition, 1,500 names, but that was done, it was a result of that we had the community meetings, and we got feedback, and we modified the design. And so you can't link that to the outcome of today because it's different. And so it was a result of that concern that Commissioner Eggers raised that we engaged the public, and more so, made modifications. And so it's different today as a result of that. And the commissioners approved the contract that put us into final design, passed in the spring. That's where they've gone. But they're going to come and meet with you. If you still want to have a meeting with the commission, we can add that to a workshop.
Each of us can tell that staff person, I'd like to see have a public discussion about it so that they can get that direction back to you, Barry.
Correct.
And put, yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
because I guess my concern with like just meeting individually is that I can't, obviously talk to my colleagues about it. And
Correct.
so if there's not an appetite from the commission to move forward with the project, I can't really bring that out. And so I think having it done in a public domain in front of all the commissioners is better than just meeting with everyone individually, because then the
Right.
staff can know how
Well, we were
individually.
going to do that, and then if you want to come to the next commission meeting or workshop and say, I'd like to add this to a future agenda, and
We can
everybody
always
agrees,
bring-
we'll
yeah.
absolutely add it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
so.
not an issue at all. I think the more transparent we are, the better.
Yeah.
It doesn't, if we err on that side, so be it.
Yes.
I think it's always better for our residents. And-
Perfect. Thank
But
you.
I think it is complicated design project, and I know they're still looking for some area to send the runoff to, because you have to have a place to send it. And they're going through some of that design work too. So it's a pretty complicated project. And some of it is from the residents that live there, but there's also residents that want to connect to the trail and to downtown. So we have to, anyway, we'll have that discussion. Appreciate your bringing that up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, as long as we're talking about plans that aren't completed yet, has anybody seen a set of plans for a baseball stadium? Because I haven't seen them yet.
You mean for the improvements?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a.
No,
base-
the 50%,
50%
talking about the
plans
50%
were
design.
supposed to have been provided to the county commission.
No, it's
I've yet to see 'em.
It's to county staff, and that's per the agreement. I have a firm under contract to be able to do that review when I receive them. I have not received them yet. I'll give a report to the commission once I've had when and if I receive them and the outcome of that review.
And you're going to be meeting with each of us anyway, based
Correct.
on some of your conversations with.
I will update you in our individual meetings as there's any progress or meetings that take
I
place.
just thought it'd be fun to ask, you know.
Yeah, I figured you did. This is not our first conversation on this.
Anything else?
No, we would like to thank Deputy Manley and Deputy Butterfield for their wonderful service as always.
Really? Again? Thank you.
They love us.
Yeah. Always great to have the deputies here. Commissioner Peters, anything?
No, I'm all good. I did my rant. Thank you.
All right, well, we'll see you on Tuesday for some more of your input. And with that said, I see nothing else. This meeting is adjourned.